Hey guys, we're on to V6 today. The optimum measurements of a classic Venuri were described in this paper here from Spain. I've got the link here below. Check it out, please. Here's pretty much what's in their article with the optimum Venuri measurements. My attempt came pretty close. I've got about 28 degrees on the inlet, 14 degrees on the outlet, a little larger than what they had recommended. I did make my air inlet a little smaller and the throat diameter a little smaller. Alright guys, this is V6. It's pretty impressive. I want to show it to you. V6. Pretty small. I mean, let's see. I don't see any coalescing of bubbles. Let's make sure this is real. Get all the air out. Let's see what kind of head pressure. Not a whole lot, to be honest. Nice bubbles. V6, maybe that's the way to go. Now they're not as small as maybe V5, the Beast. This is more the classic Venuri that I found was reported as optimal. I've got this kind of valve on it, so let's we know that's not 100%. But it is kind of sputtering, so it must be down pretty low. Hold on, let me see if I can turn it down just a bit. See the hole? There's a tiny hole. That didn't allow any air through, so I put this valve back on. But this time I put some snow seal on there, some beeswax sealant all around the hub and the threads itself, and I'm getting a really nice output of gas. I wouldn't say those are microbubbles per se. Most of them are larger, but they're more in, they're the huge quantity, and they are filling the tank very quick. Gosh, you just wonder where the quantity versus quality ratio falls, because man, that is really cranking it out. I'll try to turn it down just a little more here. Okay, I put this valve here back on. Again, really powerful outflow bubbles, but man, I'm not sure I want to call them all microbubbles. I mean, there's a good flow in there. Let's compare this to the Beast. Hold on. I mean, that's an amazing amount of bubbles. I'm sure there's quite a bit of oxygen stirring around in there with those microbubbles out in the periphery. So again, volume, quantity versus quality. The size is bigger, but the volume is so much that there's definitely microbubbles getting mixed around in there with it, with those bigger bubbles. I mean, that's a lot of oxygen. I wouldn't be surprised if that makes a big difference quickly. I just want to do the laser test. You can see the laser going right through that water. Nice and milky. Okay, compared to the Beast here, hold on. Now, those are microbubbles, okay? I mean, there's not as many, no way, that I can tell with my naked eye, but oh, talk about microbubbles. I mean, we had trouble seeing this in the daylight before, remember? In the previous videos, but I think you can pretty much see it here. The bubbles are just so fine that you hardly see them. The quantity is way less from what I can see. It's hard to say. I mean, what do you go with? Quality? These bubbles are so tiny, it's unbelievable. They don't even rise. They don't make any attempt to rise to the surface. They just kind of hover there. Very small size, way smaller than the classic version. Partly airflow related, I'm sure, because I've got this tiny little, remember I got this tiny little plug in there, not letting hardly any air through. But yeah, those are tiny bubbles. The problem is the quantity is so much less than what we were getting with the classic, so who knows? Wish I could do a steady 30 minutes with each and see what the dissolved oxygen ends up at, and then stays about 2 or 3 hours later. Okay, here's a classic one, but I put an extender on, a spiral tube extender that had cracked on me, so I kind of taped it up, and the diameters were a little off, so I stuck them together with some tape. And I don't know how to compare that with the other video that I just took, but those are pretty tiny bubbles, so maybe putting a little spiral valve on that classic Venuri V6. I don't think you're going to get as small bubbles as the beast down there, but man, you have good output. I'm seeing tons of bubbles here. They're all pretty small. I don't see champagning hardly at all, maybe just a little bit of bursting on top, but very little. And around the periphery you got quite a few of these microbubbles. Again, I guess if we're after extreme microbubbles, we're going to go with something like the beast at this point. We'll see. That's a V5 down there, the beast. Could I live with this? Oh yeah, I think so. I mean, there's a lot of bubbles in there, a lot of microbubbles too around the outer periphery. And again, I'm not sure if quantity, tiny bubbles, or quantity like this, a lot of bubbles, or quality with the beast there with tiny bubbles is more important for dissolved oxygen, but that's impressive. Okay, here's just one Venuri. Ooh, wow. We don't want that, but let's put that second Venuri on. Okay, now I have it in the proper orientation. I have the two thicker ends. More toward the pump. Boy, I don't know. It may be pumping out bubbles. Maybe it's doing a great job. I almost have to clear the water and start over. It's just, I can't see them with this lighting. I can see them moving all the bubbles around, and I'm sure there's bubbles going in and out. The valve's wide open. There might be microbubbles coming out of there. I just can't tell. I really can't tell. Sure is cloudy in there though.